Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Dr. Mark Huddleston, author of Eluding the Toxic Enemy Within. Dr. Mark, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, we are thrilled to have you. Are you ready to get started?
Yes, I am.
All right. Question number 1. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Basically, I believe that anybody can write. I truly believe that you should write about something you're passionate about. That's the thing that stops so many people. They start to sit down and they start dwelling on the aspects of what they're going to write about. So basically, what I always would recommend is that anyone that wants to start to write is get a blank piece of paper, sit down, just start writing down ideas.
And what?
Go ahead.
No, sorry. Go ahead, sir.
And so just write down a bunch of your ideas, and then start picking from those ideas, and just start breaking them down. And you don't have to rush doing it.
And I like that you mentioned that too, about breaking everything down and just, getting the process down with this thing. It doesn't have to be done right this second. Get everything planned out, map it out, and then go from there.
Well, yes, and the whole thing is, I think what it is, it's fear, and people procrastinate. I just think that people should just relax, think about what you want to do. It's just like if you were going to the shooting range, you got to take aim at at your target if you're going to hit it. How can you go on a trip if you don't know where you're going? So basically, like I said, you want to just start writing things down about whatever it is you're going to be writing about, and just come up with different ideas. And it doesn't have to make all sense right now. It doesn't have to make sense right now, because what I love about writing now is, as opposed to when I first started writing, they had typewriters, so you couldn't move things around like you can now.
Oh yeah. Well, what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
The hardest thing about getting published, I think, is listening to negative feedback from other people. I think that's why I wrote the book, Eluding the Toxic Enemy Within. And it's because the worst enemy you're ever going to face is going to be yourself. I believe that anyone can be published. You've been published. I've been published. I was scared to death on my first book. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no one to actually really point me in the right direction. And so it took me like about 3.5 years to write that book. And I was just terrified. I didn't know if anyone was going to like it. And then when I wrote the book, I started getting responses back from people from around the neighborhoods, and they were saying, "Hey, I like what you're saying here." So it's once I got past the fear, I think everyone has that fear, that doubt of not knowing. And once you get past that, I think that is the worst thing. That the worst thing is just your fear. And if you can just start writing things down every day, even if you don't have to write a page every day, just do a paragraph every day. And you'll see one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking out the door.
Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
That would be social media. Is to me, I'm still learning about all the different avenues. You got Twitter out there. You have Facebook. When I speak, that helps me tremendously, because a lot of times I'm sitting in front of a large audience. I just got finished speaking recently. I was at Uber, at the headquarters in San Francisco and was speaking. There was a large group of people. People were very interested in what I was saying. So the whole thing is you have to actually you want to find out what your market is. I think that's the most important thing. You don't want to be talking to the wrong market. You want to be talking to somebody that's going to listen to you. And again, if you have something, if you have a book, if you have a DVD, CD, you want to have that with you when you're speaking. I think that you can reach a large group of people, a large audience, just by having something available. Because a lot of times after I speak, a lot of people always walk up to me and they ask me, "Do you have any books? Do you have any DVDs, any CDs, anything else that we can buy?" A lot of times I'll end up selling all my books and the three DVDs that I have. So it's just unbelievable the different strategies that you can use.
Well, you mentioned the speaking gig, so tell us a little bit about that and how you're able to speak at big places like Uber.
The whole thing is, I network. I just basically I'm not a an inverted person. I get out there. If I will talk to anyone that will listen. If I'm speaking, I hear another speaker. They'll say, "Why don't you come up to me if you need any help or can you give me any input?" I'll walk up to them, introduce myself, and I'll ask them. I'll say, "Hey, well, I would like to speak at this event that you're speaking at next. Is there any way I can do that?" And a lot of times they just give you the information, and they will even vouch for you. So once again, I always stick my foot in the door. So you might close it and crush a couple toes, but at least my foot's in there.
So give us an example of how you got the speaking gig with Uber. How did that work out?
I was speaking to uh, a large group of people. They were down in San Francisco. They were having a parade. Uh, and so when they were having the parade, I walked up to a lot of they call them millennials, and I was talking to this young group of people, and it was funny because one gentleman I was talking to was having some financial problems in one of my books. It's the rewards, the essential keys of financial freedom. I was actually talking to one of the people, and I was telling him that he needed to have several different accounts open. I said if he didn't have these accounts, that in the next 10 to 20 years, he was going to be broke. And I don't think a lot of people know that right now. I think the people after 1964, they're not going to have any Social Security. So right now, people are starting to become afraid. And I think you've been taking a look around. Every time you drive down the freeway, over at the underpasses, you see all these homeless people, and it's starting to grow. And I told a lot of people back in 2004 that this was going to happen, and they laughed me off the stage. I was in Sacramento when I did that. No one's laughing anymore. My projection is in the next 10 to 15 years, it's going to be about 100 million people homeless, if not more.
Well, and the thing is too, depending on which coast you're on as well, because we always know anytime these type of things happen, it always hits the East Coast first and the West Coast, and then it starts going towards the middle.
Yeah, that's so true. And right now, it's the West Coast is being bombarded with the homeless right now. So I'm just sitting here and I'm trying to help and spread this word that we need to come together because the government right now, if the government's not going to live on separate terms than the people they govern, we're going to have a catastrophe hit the United States. And I'm just hoping and praying that I can try to get the word out. And I'm trying to talk to a lot of different groups right now. And they're interested in what I'm saying because I believe a lot of people are starting to see it's everywhere. What I'm talking about, it's a homeless issue is everywhere and it's growing.
Well, speaking of books, I'd like to know what is your favorite book and what was the number one thing that you learned from it.
Oh, wow. A favorite book? I believe that would have to be Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That book changed my philosophy. That changed my philosophy. That's what helped me start writing my books. It was basically that you didn't have to uh, stay where you're at in life. You know, it you had to change. You had to change the way you think. And if you change the way you think, your life was going to change. And when I started practicing the principles in that book, my life started changing. And so that book, I've told everyone I know about that book, and it's changed my life.
And for our final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
Well, I don't know where I got this quote from, but I like it. If you continue to do what you've always done, you'll continue to be what you've always been. And I don't know who wrote it.
And why is that your favorite quote?
Because I see so many people trapped in the past. I see so many people, they never leave high school. Um, you know, I'm almost 60 years old. When I talk to people back when we were in high school, that's all they talk about. They've never left high school. They're frozen in time. So if you want to continue to grow, you have to self-development is a key to success. I truly believe that.
Well, Dr. Mark, I want to thank you for being a guest on this show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Well, that would be DrMarkHuddleston.com. DrMarkHuddleston.com.
Well, Dr. Mark, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.